So today's topic is Jivatma. However, I thought I will just do a quick recap of our topic yesterday. Yesterday's topic was karma. And we were speaking about how do we understand the inequalities that we see all around us. Is it because the Lord is partial? The answer is no. And we were using a cricket scoreboard analogy to understand that the scoreboard begins from a prior life. And therefore, not everybody has the same starting point. We also discussed what is karma. There were 4 definitions of karma. So karma includes all of our activities that we perform in this life. Karma also means the reactions that we get for all of our activities, good, bad, indifferent. This entire system of actions and reactions is also called karma. And when you do good deeds, that is also called karma, but the technical term used for that is actually sukarma. And we said Lord Krishna himself defines karma. In the beginning, we looked at how Google, various people who have put out various posters have defined karma. Broadly speaking, what we saw on those posters is an accurate representation of what karma is, but it is incomplete. So the completeness of understanding karma actually comes when we read the Bhagavad Gita. So in Shloka 4.17, the Lord uses 3 terms, which when you translate it into English, it becomes karma, vikarma, and akarma. So the Lord says there are recommended actions, there are prohibited actions, and there is inaction. Recommended activities means you have to follow the scriptures. And if you're abiding by the scriptures, then it results in what is called punya, which means you're doing good things, you're doing good deeds. Diametrically opposite that is if you perform sinful activities, it is considered sinful if you're not following the scriptures. So anybody who's not following the scriptures is committing sinful activities. This is called papa. And then Krishna instructs Arjuna, we should not be worried about getting papa and punya, because the results of that is also temporary. Temporary in the sense you have to enjoy the outcome of your good deeds for a little while, and then you have to come back and take birth again, or whichever birth you are in, you are enjoying it for some time. It has to come down to 0. It will come to 0. But the problem is it never comes to 0. Why? Because we keep adding karma every single life that we occupy. As long as we are occupying a human form, we are accumulating a lot of karma. There is no karma for animals. There is no karma for plants. There is no karma for trees. Karma applies only if you're occupying a human form. So today we'll find out there are 400,000 or 4 lakh different types of species of human form. One such species of human form is called the Devatas. They are highly intelligent, highly capable human beings. But because they are so powerful, they occupy powerful posts. So for example, in our culture, most people will not know this. What is it that they will not know? They do not know that Brahma is actually a post. Indra is a post. It's not the name of a person. So when we say Vayu Bhagavan, Vayu is not the name of the person occupying that post. So I was just listening to some lecture, and it is said that the Indra that we have today in our universe, his name is Purandara, but he's occupying the post of Indra. So all of these are posts that you and I can apply for if we want, if we have the desire, and if we have the wherewithal to do what it takes to become a demigod, we can. But for every post, you have to qualify yourself. And qualification alone is not sufficient. Somebody in the authority has to nominate you and put you in that post. So Brahma is a post. All the other 33 crore devatas are also posts that anybody can apply for. So Brahma is not a name of a person. The word Brahma means creator. So it's a title. Indra is a title. Surya is a title. Chandra is a title. It's not the name of the person. So these are posts that are occupied by Jivatmas. So when Krishna tells Arjuna, you should focus on a karma, because as long as you are accumulating punya or papa, you will be forced to take birth again. You may be taking birth in different planetary systems. You may be going to the upper planets, or you may be going to the lower planets, depending on what you've done. So we said, Krishna says, you have to actually do inaction. Now, how can you do inaction and still fight? So akarma literally means inaction, but it doesn't mean inaction as in staying stationary or avoiding responsibilities. Akarma simply means we do our duty without worrying about the outcome, because we are attached to doing our duties and responsibilities. A higher level of a karma. So when you are doing a karma, you could say that is karma yoga. Within karma yoga, there are levels within karma yoga. So you have sakama karma yoga and nishkama karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga means you're doing everything as per the Vedic scriptures, but you're actually doing it because you are interested in that outcome. Nishkama karma yoga means you're doing your duties and responsibilities, but whatever outcome you get, you're not attached to it, or you give it away. So you'll have people like this who may be earning a lot of money and simply give away their money in charity, as long as they are doing this charity in accordance with scriptures. So in the Bhagavad Gita, if you attend my 18-day session for the 18 chapters, Krishna talks about charity, austerity, and sacrifice. These three things have to be done as per the scriptures, and every human being has to do it. Every human being has to give in charity, has to observe some austerities, has to do some yajna. If we don't, we are accumulating karmic reactions if we don't do that. That's what Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to use a simple example to distinguish between punya and sukriti. What's the difference? I think punya and papa we all understand. I don't have to go into more details about that. The question is, how do you get to that point of where you're doing a karma and still you're acting, still you're performing your duties and responsibilities? So let's take the example of charity. Let us say you are concerned about the poor people, You want to help them out. It's the right thing to do because you see people suffering. And when you see people suffering and you want to help them, that's a nice thing to do. So COVID happened, and there were a lot of laborers who were stuck, who were not getting paid and suddenly did not have money for food and clothing and basic necessities. So let us say a group of individuals in an apartment complex come together and they decide, let's feed these migrant laborers. They are stuck here until they get back home because of the lockdown. Let's make sure we take care of them because we cannot accept the fact that we're witnessing another human being suffer. So let's say these group of individuals decide, we will purchase a lot of items, we will cook it ourselves, and we will go to where the laborer communities are, waiting for their respective buses to take them back to their respective states and distribute the food. For this, if they're doing it as per Shastra, for a good cause, this would be considered punya. Now, let us say Krishna said, become a devotee of mine. And I also want to help the poor. There's nothing wrong if I want to help the poor. So just give me 1 second. I need to adjust something. Yeah. So I also want to help the poor. But I don't want to accumulate punya. I want to accumulate sukriti. Because that's what Krishna's instruction is to me in the Bhagavad Gita. So I too see the laborer community, they are suffering during COVID. What will I do? I will go, I will purchase food items. I will cook it nicely. The difference is, I will offer it to Lord Krishna first and then distribute it as prasadam. When I distribute that food as prasadam, there is no karmic reactions for me. And also, there is no karmic reactions for the person who's going to honor that prasadam. So, which means I am making sure that my actions are falling under the umbrella of Sukriti. And I am also making sure that the soul that is going to accept that prasadam and honor it is also getting Sukriti. I'm going to go back to the first example, where a group of people have cooked on their own, packed the food very nicely and distributed to the migrants. For them, they may have gotten punya. But when you distribute food that is not offered to the Lord first, there is papa associated with it. Why is there papa associated if you give somebody food that has not been offered to the Lord? Well, because in the process of procuring food items, cooking them, we are killing a lot of jivatmas. So by serving somebody food that has not been offered to the Lord, I am causing that person to have to accept the papa of consuming food that has not been offered to the Lord. I hope with this example, simple example, it is clear to you what is the difference between papa and sukriti. The activities are the same. The mood and the motivation is different. My motivation as a devotee of Krishna is to please Krishna first. So I will cook food items as per Krishna's desire. I will offer it to Krishna, and only then I will distribute it as prasadam. So people need to stay on mute. Whereas if I cook food, although I am also compassionate, I also feel, why are others suffering and why should I watch them suffering? Let me step in and help them. But if I cook food and just distribute it without offering it to Krishna, I am essentially distributing sinful reactions. Now, we have to ask ourselves that question. Is that really true compassion? Do I want to force other people to accept sin just because I was ignorant? No, we don't want to do that. So devotees of Krishna will make sure that whatever activities they do, whether that is annadan or building shelters for the poor or purchasing, let's say, clothing items, we will make sure that we offer it to Krishna first before we distribute it. That is what Krishna wants you to do. Because he says if you do that, it will benefit everybody. How does it benefit everybody? It benefits everybody because there is no punya or papa accumulated in this activity. Okay, so now that I have covered that, I will begin our class for today. I will take questions at the end of the class. Yeah, so today I have some time. We can spend time looking at those questions. So today's topic is Jivatma. So my question for you, you can please post your answer in the chat window, is what is the meaning of the word Jivatma? What's your understanding of the word Jivatma? Just take a few minutes to respond to my question. Just put it in chat. I will take a look at your answer shortly. Yeah. My request is kindly do not unmute yourself unless I request a verbal response. So Jivatma means human being. Jivatma means eternal, non-destroyable, an individual soul, God's chosen soul who has life, divine spirit. Okay. An iota of Almighty. Okay. We are on the journey to accept in awareness. Okay. So yes, so if we talked about this particular question in the first session, which is, who are you? And in response to my question, who are you? Almost all of you answered by identifying yourselves as the son or daughter of somebody or the mother or father of somebody. A few of you did say that I am individual soul. So we also discussed that we have this body and we have the soul. At least in India, everybody is familiar with this concept of body and soul. So my question to you, my next question to you that I'd like to see your response in the chat window is, what do you think our duty is? If we agree that we are a soul, what is the duty? To serve the Lord, to worship, to connect with God, self-realization, Sukriti, to go back home, back to God, to attain God. Okay. Now, since a lot of you have provided the right answer, which is to serve the Lord, to please the Lord, to go back home, to achieve self-realization, do we all know what is the process we have to follow to do that? Do we understand what the scriptures say in how to accomplish that goal? We set ourselves goals in material life. So if this is the ultimate goal for us, how do we go about achieving that goal? What are we supposed to do? Okay, in the 18th chapter, what is the Lord saying? Yes, we have to realize we are not this body, that we are the spirit soul. Harinam, moksha, yes, somebody has said that. To perform our duty, to do karma, yes. But I hope we have understood what karma actually means now. To practice devotional service as per the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Yes, that's right. So if we want to do all of these things, we were discussing yesterday that in material life, we have teachers for every subject. So similarly, in the spiritual field also, we have qualified teachers. We have bona fide teachers. So we have to approach a guru, and under the guidance of guru, we have to begin our journey. So today we're going to look a little bit deeper into how the Lord looks at Jivatma. So let's begin our session today. So what is the soul? What's the difference between the body and the soul? What's the nature of the soul? And what's reincarnation? And we'll end with a slide that we discussed briefly yesterday, which is Arjuna's dilemma. So my next question for you, what proof is there that there is a soul that resides within us? Can we prove that the soul exists? Body we can see, we can experience. What if somebody says soul doesn't exist? How would you put forth your information to refute their understanding that there is no soul? What proof is there that the soul exists? Body is dead without the soul. Very good. The body keeps changing. Yes. There is scientific research done on the soul. Okay. Even after brain death, the soul may exist. Very good. Our breath shows that there is a soul that exists. Okay. Okay, good. So in the Bhagavad Gita and in our Shastras, there are 6 evidences that a soul exists. And we're going to go through that very quickly today. So this is what we're going to cover today. Not too many slides. What are the benefits of being aware that we are not this body and we are actually spirit soul? One is it frees you up. It lifts a burden off your shoulder. Imagine if you're suffering from amnesia and you don't know who you are and who you belong to, how lost you would be in your life. But if somebody helps you overcome your forgetfulness and helps you overcome this amnesia and tells you who you really are, Can you imagine what a relief that would be? Because now that you know who you really are, you can act as per that knowledge. But if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what's your responsibility? How do you know what's your duty? So one of the first concepts that Lord Krishna covers in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, there are many, many shlokas on the soul. Not everybody knows that there is a body and there is a soul. In a lot of societies, they believe that we only have one life to live, and there is no soul, and there is no rebirth, there is no reincarnation. Christianity does not believe in reincarnation, which means for them, there is no concept of rebirth. But Krishna says clearly, there is rebirth for us until we do the right thing. And the right thing, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is to surrender to him. 18.66. Sarvadharmam parityagnya mam ekam. Ekam means only one. Mam, Krishna is saying surrender to me. He doesn't say surrender to anybody you want. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. He says take my shelter alone. Don't take anybody else's shelter. So if we take Krishna's shelter, because we're aware that there is a difference between the body and soul, and Krishna says this is confidential knowledge. Not everybody knows that there is a body and soul. So this is the first level of confidentiality that he's revealing to Arjuna in chapter 2. And then one more level of confidentiality and the final level of confidentiality that Krishna will gradually reveal to Arjuna. So one can be free from lamentation, fear, and illusion if you understand who you are and if you understand what your duties are. So one can truly experience universal brotherhood when we all accept that Lord Krishna is our only Father. You cannot experience being brothers unless you first accept that we all have the same Father. Universal brotherhood can only come if there is universal fatherhood. We have to accept that we have the same Father. It doesn't matter what body you're occupying. It doesn't matter if you are born or a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or whatever, atheist or whatever denomination, it doesn't matter. We all come from the Supreme Lord. He created us. If he created us, that automatically makes us all his children. So when you realize who you are and who others are as a result of that, then you should always be doing the right thing. There should be no confusion for you as to what is the right thing to do. Knowing who you are helps you stay positive, helps you have a bright outlook on life, and helps you do your duties and responsibilities with a sense of purpose. See, all of us need a purpose. If we don't have a purpose, we wouldn't wake up in the morning. But our purposes may be different. Some of us may get up and go to work because we need to earn money. That's our primary purpose. Yes, we have to take care of the physical body. Krishna says that. But we have to take care of something else, which is the soul. So Krishna is saying, I have created you and I've given you all these resources. If you know who you are, then you'll also make right use of the resources. You will not abuse the resources or misuse the resources that Krishna has given you. So what are these resources? It begins with your body. So how do you take care of yourself so that you have the capacity and the ability and the strength to serve the Lord? This body is a gift to you and me from Krishna. So we also need to make sure we take care of the body as much as we have to take care of the soul. So actually, this is the concluding slide, but I brought it up because at least in India, everybody understands what is the soul. So I'm going to now, please raise your hand. I will call out your name. Who are these famous personalities? Do you know their names? Please raise your hand. I will call your name. Okay, Pramita, who's on the first row?
Mother Teresa,
Hmm.
A.R. Rahman, music director,
A.R. Rahman in the middle, then
Albert Einstein,
Albert Einstein, yes.
Steve Jobs,
Steve Jobs, okay, below Albert Einstein, yes.
and Queen Elizabeth,
Queen Elizabeth below Steve Jobs, yes.
Obama,
Obama on the bottom left.
bottom, yes.
Okay. So anybody knows who are the missing?
Nelson Mandela and Robert Federer.
Nelson Mandela, Robert Federer. Okay. And at the bottom?
Winfrey.
Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth.
Oprah. Winfrey Oprah.
Winfrey Oprah.
Oprah Winfrey. Very good. All of you know them personally. Right? So you know them personally by name. Okay. Very good. So now tell me who's on the first row. These are their baby pictures. Those same 9 individuals that we saw here. So remember, Mother Teresa, A.R. Rahman, Albert Einstein, Nelson Mandela, Roger Federer, Steve Jobs, President Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, and Queen Elizabeth. So whose baby picture is on the top?
First row, third person, Einstein.
First row is?
Third person, Einstein, Albert Einstein.
That entire row is one person's childhood photos.
Oh, I don't,
So all of it is Einstein. Okay. Second?
The second.
Second is?
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth,
Queen Elizabeth. Bottom?
Federer.
Federer.
Federer,
Next slide. Top?
Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Middle?
Last one,
Mother Teresa.
Obama.
Last
Mother
one,
Teresa,
Obama. Middle, Teresa. Okay. Next?
Winfrey Oprah.
Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah
Oprah
Winfrey.
Winfrey.
Last one, Steve Jobs.
Rahman.
Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
Middle?
Rahman.
Yeah, right.
A.R. Rahman.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for helping me with this little exercise. So can you tell me what has changed and what has stayed constant? I will call your name. I will call your
Body
name.
has changed.
One second.
Body has changed. It's the growth.
I will call your name so that we're not speaking over each other. So, Sudhashri, please. What have we witnessed? What is same and what is different?
Mataji, the soul is same,
The
but
soul
the
is same.
bodies have grown. We have grown up. We have grown older by each day, but the soul remains the same.
Soul remains the same. Okay. All right. Anybody else has any other answer? If you have a different answer, raise your hand. Otherwise,
Birth, death, old age and disease. Old age, disease and old age.
no, that is seen in the photos. I was asking in the photos, what has changed and what has stayed the same?
The change in the body.
Change in the
Change
body.
in the body.
From youth to the old age.
From youth to old age, yes. So the body has undergone so many changes, right? From the time that you take birth, your body is constantly undergoing change. What is causing this to change? Well, that's what we're going to come to now. So the body undergoes 6 changes. This is where there is proof of the soul. How do we prove that the soul exists? 1, we take birth. 2, after we take birth, we grow. Our body goes through changes. So growth is the second symptom that the soul exists. The third symptom that the soul exists is that the soul is trying to maintain the body. Therefore, maintenance is the third evidence that a soul exists. There is intelligence that causes you to take care of your own body. The fourth evidence that the soul exists is that the body actually produces byproducts. Byproducts meaning you are able to produce a child. The fifth evidence that the soul exists is that over a period of time, you undergo old age. So you become old. In the sense, the body starts dwindling. And finally, when the soul is ready to take on a new body, we experience what is called death. When the soul no longer wants to stay in that particular body, it leaves the body and is ready to occupy the next body. So this is the proof that the soul exists. So for example, as long as a person is alive, we refer to them by their name. Or we may say he or she. But once the person has passed away, that same body you are desperate to get rid of. You don't want that body in your house for too long because you know what will happen to the body without the soul in it. It's going to disintegrate. So that same person you loved so dearly, whether it's your grandfather or some other relative, you are happy to bury them or cremate them because you can no longer associate with them. Why? Because the soul has exited the body. Otherwise, physically they are there. They had a name, they had a history, you knew who they were, you knew their personality, but you no longer wish to associate with them because they are not in that body anymore. So innately we recognize that something has changed at the time of death. The body no longer moves. The body no longer gets old. The body no longer produces things. The body no longer knows how to maintain itself. So that who am I, that I is that spirit soul. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that it's the soul that is constant. It's only the body that keeps changing. And we look at the shlokas that Krishna references. We'll come to chapter 2, but we'll look at what is it that Krishna is indicating to us in terms of what happens to us when we take birth. Yes, as somebody rightly said, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age and disease. These are the wheels of life. We are wheeled into this world and then we are wheeled out into the crematorium. None of us have a choice. We have to give up this body. Even Brahma, who occupies the topmost planet, and there are millions and trillions of universes, and therefore there are millions and trillions of Brahmas also. In our universe, our Brahma has 4 heads. In other universes, Brahmas have 100 heads, millions heads, trillions heads, depending on the size of the universe that they are managing. So our Brahma has only 4 heads. There is a very sweet pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Brahma comes, our Brahma comes to visit Krishna, Sri Krishna in Dwaraka. And the guards stop and ask him, who are you? And he says, I'm Brahma, I'm Lord Brahma. And they say, okay, wait here, we'll go inform Lord Krishna that you're here. If he accepts to see you, then we'll take you in. So a few minutes later, the guards come back outside. They are saying, it's nice that you want to meet Lord Krishna, but Lord Krishna is asking, which Brahma are you? So our Lord Brahma gets confused. He's thinking he's the only Brahma. He doesn't know that there are other Brahmas. So he's saying, what do you mean? The Lord knows who I am. I'm Lord Brahma. So they say, okay, reluctantly they allow him to come inside. And at that time, when Lord Brahma comes in, he sees hundreds and hundreds of other Brahmas with different number of heads on each of them, and all of them are offering obeisances to Krishna. So Krishna wanted to subtly tell Lord Brahma, he is not the only Lord Brahma. There are many other Brahmas in every universe. So his position is not unique. He simply was occupying that position as Brahma. So in this shloka, Krishna says, Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Krishna is saying, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So there are two facts that Lord Krishna is establishing in the shloka. He's saying there are two separate worlds. There is a material world, there is a material universe, and then there is a spiritual universe. And he's telling Arjuna, as long as you are living in the material universe, and whoever is living in the material universe, it doesn't matter. It could be a virus. Virus has a birth date and death date also. An ant has a birth date and death date. Elephant has the same. We also have the same. No difference. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, as long as you are in this material universe, these four things you have to undergo, including birth and death. And then Krishna is giving him an option. He's saying, but Arjuna, if you come to me, where I live, where does Lord Krishna live? He lives in a place called Golok Vrindavan, the spiritual universe. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, but once you enter into my home, into my abode, that's it. It's over. You don't have to take birth again. So through this shloka, Lord Krishna has introduced two things. One is, what does eternity really mean? What does it mean for us to be immortal? The soul is considered to be immortal. The body undergoes all of these symptoms, but the soul doesn't undergo these 6 symptoms. The soul is eternal, the soul is immortal. But true immortality you experience when you actually go back to the Lord. And then Lord Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita that this entire material universe is just 1/4 of his creation. 3/4 of everything else is the spiritual universe. Now, our science can never tell us how big this universe is. We can barely understand our own galaxy, let alone trillions of universes that are occupying this vast sky. But Krishna is saying, if I draw a circle, only 1/4 of that circle is the material universe, the 3/4 of that same circle is the spiritual universe. That means Krishna's house is so huge. That is why this material universe is considered a jail. It's like a jail cell where he sends the disobedient kids. Go, rectify yourself, do the right thing, come back to me. So Krishna is saying there's no choice. All of us have to go through these things. So now coming to chapter 2, where most of the shlokas are there, where Lord Krishna talks about in detail about the soul. Why does Krishna talk about the soul at all? In response to one of the reasons that Arjuna gives to Lord Krishna when he says, if I kill them, I'm going to commit a lot of sins. And Krishna has to first tell Arjuna, you may be killing the body, but you can never kill the soul, because the soul will simply accept a new body. And Krishna will further tell Arjuna, they deserve to be killed, because by killing them, you will stop the process of them committing any more sins. In our Shastra, in our culture, death penalty is accepted. So let us say somebody killed somebody else. The king is supposed to put the person who committed that murder to death. Because then what happens is, by the king putting that person to death, that soul gets an opportunity to take on a new body and stop the cycle of sin and evolve spiritually. So Krishna is saying death is a necessity if you want to stop the sinful activities in this life, and then the soul gets a fresh start again. There's an opportunity for the soul to come in contact with a great personality, with an acharya, and then the entire life gets transformed. Just like you and I are here attending this Bhagavad Gita class, for whatever reason, we were inspired to sign up and come and attend this class. So in the first class, I mentioned that this is going to be a life-altering decision for you, because this is going to change the trajectory of your spiritual life. You can stop the cycle of sins, but for that, we need the mercy of the Lord and we need the mercy of Guru. So in Shloka 13, Lord Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhiras tatra na muhyati. So we saw pictures of all of these great personalities and how their body has changed over a period of time. They look very different, although we were able to spot their baby pictures very nicely. So here Krishna is saying, as the embodied soul means the soul that is occupying a particular body, continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. Krishna is telling Arjuna, you see a lot of changes that are happening to your body. So when this body is no longer useful for that particular Jivatma, then that Jivatma simply switches to another body. And then Krishna is saying, if you really know this, you will not be bewildered or confused about doing your duty. So Krishna is saying a sober person is not bewildered by such a change, because we all have to go through this cycle. So let us look at what is the difference between death and moksha. What we call death is actually giving up this physical body. The soul has not died, and the soul will never die. So, what is the difference between death and moksha? So, first of all, let's understand we all have two types of bodies. One is the gross body, which is the physical body that you and I can see. We can use this body to experience things. We also have a subtle body to experience life. This subtle body, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So what happens at the time of death? The soul has left the body, and along with the soul goes the subtle body. So which means when you have to take on a new body, your memories, your intelligence, and your false ego goes along with the body to occupy, goes along with the soul to occupy a new body. This explains why some people can remember their past lives and past birth. Who they were, where they were born, who were their parents, what were their parents' names. This is another proof that the soul undergoes reincarnation. So at the time of death, everything that you had as experiences goes with you. Actually, I heard this somewhere that up to the age of 5, a child can actually remember their previous life. Sometimes you will find that children are playing with imaginary friends. They may mention names. Apparently, it's an evidence that the child actually has memory of the prior life up to the age of 5. After the age of 5, the child forgets their previous life. So if you have to go back to the spiritual world, you have to give up your subtle body also. You have to give up all this mind, intelligence, and the false ego. And the only thing left is the soul in its pure original form, which is called Satchidananda. So when only the soul remains, you have given up the gross body, you have given up the subtle body, you are ready to enter the spiritual planets. You are ready to enter the spiritual world. So death is separation from the physical body. Moksha is permanent separation from your subtle body. So this is the confidential information that Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. What are the other evidences that the soul exists? Well, there is a lot of information in the Bhagavad Gita as well as other Shastras about what is the soul. We said without the soul, a body cannot grow and cannot demonstrate all of these 6 changes. So there is physical growth and also spiritual growth happens through the soul. The symptom of the soul is consciousness. You see how beautifully Srila Prabhupada named this institution the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Not material consciousness, not any other consciousness. This institution was named as Krishna Consciousness because that is Lord Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita to us, where he tells Arjuna, always think of me, bow down to me, worship me, and remember me. This is actually Krishna consciousness. It's not God consciousness. God has a name. Of course, the Lord has millions and trillions of names based on his activities. But his primary name is Krishna. The word Krishna means all attractive. Krishna is beautiful. He's very attractive. He wants you to come back to him. But you can only go back to him if you're practicing Krishna consciousness. Because that is Krishna's instruction to us in the Bhagavad Gita. So I will repeat, we are simply here to follow Krishna's instructions, not to make up something on our own out of convenience. So the soul is eternally an individual soul, and it will remain individual even when the soul acquires a spiritual body and enters the spiritual universe. So even in the spiritual world, you have a form, but that form is called Satchidananda. It is not like a typical material body. And you do retain your individuality as a soul in the spiritual world, just as we have experienced individuality here. Krishna says, the soul is indestructible and eternal. It is unborn, which means it always existed. Since the Lord has always existed, we have existed since the Lord existed. How do we understand that? Krishna says we are part and parcel of Him. We belong to Him. The soul cannot be measured. Actually, there is some measurement given. We'll come to that last point. It cannot be cut, Krishna says. It cannot be burnt. It cannot be dried. It cannot get wet. The soul is invisible and inconceivable. You can't think about it. You don't know what it looks like. It's beyond the material realm. From the other Shastras, the soul pervades the entire body. The soul is very infinitesimal. But when we say it pervades the entire body, it means it's in the form of consciousness. So if I pinch you, you can experience the pain. A dead body cannot experience pain. A living entity can experience pain. That is because of the presence of the soul, and that is because the soul has consciousness. The soul is eternally seeking the Lord. The soul feels lost without the Lord. So in one of my previous classes, I was giving this example that let's say you are a parent and you have a young child. The young child has gone out to play in the park. The young child is just happily enjoying himself. And you try to call the child back into the house and the child protests. He says, no, I'm enjoying myself too much. I don't want to come home now. So we are like that soul. We are trying to enjoy ourselves in this material universe. And Krishna is saying, come back to me. And we are saying, no, I'm not ready. But Krishna is always calling out to us, come back to me, because you don't realize, you may think you're enjoying yourself. Actually, in reality, you are suffering. But that requires intelligence to know that we're suffering and to do something about it. So the soul is Satchidananda. And we said the soul does not undergo those 6 changes that we talked about, which is birth, growth, maintenance, byproduct, dwindling, and death. These 6 things does not impact the soul. So if I were to pluck out one of my hair and cut it into 100 parts, and then I take one of that 100 parts and cut that one into another 100 parts, that is the size of the soul. So this is also there in our scriptures. Facts about the soul. What about transmigration? So Krishna says, Jatasya hidruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharyerthe natvam shochitum arhasi. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, one who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So Krishna is encouraging Arjuna by saying, you are a Kshatriya. Your duty is to use violence sometimes to protect dharma. A Brahmana is not allowed to use violence. Vaishya is not authorized to use violence. Shudras or the working class are not allowed to use violence. Kshatriyas are authorized to use violence for the purpose of protecting dharma. Therefore, Krishna says, knowing that you are a Kshatriya, knowing that these are your duties and responsibilities, you should not worry about death. You should not worry about killing another person because that other person is going to take a new body. So you shouldn't worry about it. And then Krishna says, if that person dies on the battlefield and it's a just cause for which they were fighting, they will go immediately to the heavenly planets and enjoy themselves there. They will be rewarded for what they've done. So this is not something that you should worry about. Bhishma Dev will take on a new body. Dronacharya will take on a new body. If they have lived lives of Krishna consciousness, maybe they will even get liberated by dying on this battlefield. Maybe they'll achieve moksha. Or maybe they'll go to the topmost planets. So you shouldn't worry. You should simply perform your duty because that's what I want you to do. So Krishna has organized a huge wardrobe for us. What do I mean by wardrobe? You can take on whatever form of body you want. There is the shloka. You actually take the human form after transmigrating through 8.4 million different types of bodies before you get the human body. Jalaja navalakshani sthavar laksha vimshati krimayo rudra samkhyaya pakshinam dashalakshanam trinshal lakshani pashava chatur lakshani manavaha. This shloka translates as follows. Krishna in the Shastras says there are 9 lakh different species that are living in the water. There are 20 lakh different types of trees and plants. There are 11 lakh different types of insects and reptiles. There is 10 lakh different types of bird species. 30 lakh quadruples. Quadruples means 4-legged animals. And there are 4 lakh different types of human bodies. This is the huge wardrobe that Krishna has given you and me. So he's telling Arjuna through the Bhagavad Gita, if we were smart, we will select the right body. We want to be in the human body because moksha comes in the human body. There are rare exceptions where great souls who have, for whatever reason, occupied an animal body were released by the Lord. So Krishna is saying, this human body is so rare. You have to learn to do the right thing. It will be an absolute waste if you misuse this opportunity to escape from this prison or to get free from this prison. Yeah. So this is the last slide for the day. So we'll come back to Arjuna's dilemma and how Krishna methodically addresses his dilemma. So what is the crisis that Arjuna has? It's an identity crisis. He has forgotten that he is the spirit soul, that he is not this body. He is experiencing confusion, amnesia. So Krishna says the Kauravas have been sinful. We've given them enough opportunities to do the right thing. I have given them an opportunity to do the right thing, but still they refused. So therefore, war is inevitable and death is a befitting punishment to those who are sinful. At a minimum, it brings an end to their sinful reactions. They can get a fresh start. So Arjuna asks Krishna, why is it acceptable that I have to kill my own family? So in chapter 1, and in the beginning shlokas of chapter 2, Arjuna is actually arguing with Krishna, giving all these reasons why he should not fight. But when Krishna chastises him and says, you are speaking like a learned Brahmana, actually you don't know anything. Stop lamenting, Krishna tells Arjuna. So when Krishna, a teacher sometimes has to scold the student and say, stop talking nonsense, listen to me. So after he's received the scolding from Krishna, then Arjuna becomes submissive. He says, okay, now Baba, you tell me what I'm supposed to do. You're the Supreme Lord. I'm surrendering to you. You please tell me what I'm supposed to do. But these are all the doubts that I have in my mind. Please advise me what I should do. So after Arjuna requests the Lord to instruct him, he says, I'm accepting you as my teacher now. So please tell me what I am supposed to do. So Arjuna gives various reasons. I'm very compassionate. I feel sorry for my family. Even if they are unscrupulous, it's okay. Let them enjoy the kingdom. I don't want to fight. I don't need the 3 worlds. I'm a Kshatriya. I don't need this wealth. I'll go to the forest. I don't want to accumulate sin. I don't want to destroy family. And then finally in chapter 2, the final excuse that Arjuna gives is, I actually don't know which is better. Should I be killed by them or should I kill them? You tell me, Krishna. So we discussed yesterday, Arjuna's dilemma is it Kula Dharma or Kshatriya Dharma? Which should he prioritize? So Lord Krishna's advice in the second chapter is a large chapter. It's a lot of shlokas. There are 72 or 73 shlokas in chapter 2. Krishna says, if you know there is no death for the soul and you are a Kshatriya, why are you worried about killing somebody on the battlefield? On the battlefield, death is inevitable for somebody or the other. Somebody is going to die, somebody is going to enjoy. So don't worry about it. Use this knowledge that the soul will occupy a new body. Don't worry, don't lament, just do your duty. Then Krishna tackles it from another angle. He says, okay, let's say you do want to enjoy your kingdom. Then if you want to achieve something in life, you have to work for it. So why don't you fight, win, and get the benefit of winning? You will enjoy the kingdom. What's wrong with that? So he's saying, if you don't believe that the soul is eternal, then you don't have a choice. You at least you're occupying this body right now. You have to work. So why not fight? Because that's your duty. Just do your duty and enjoy whatever results you get. Then Krishna says, use buddhi yoga, use your intelligence. You fight in such a way where it will not create papa or punya for you. This is actually fighting with detachment, fighting for Krishna. And then finally, Krishna says, be a sthita prajna. Fight because I am asking you to fight. You are supposed to work for me. You are my servant. So follow my instruction. I am your master. You are my servant. Follow my instruction. I am telling you to fight. You shouldn't even question why I'm asking you to fight. Fight to please me. That is Krishna consciousness. So then Krishna tells Arjuna in the second chapter, if you acquire the spiritual vision where everything that you do, you're doing it to please the Lord, it will anyway give you material gains. You need not work for material gains separately from spiritual gains. You can achieve both simultaneously. You can fight and win or fight and lose, but win. What is this fight and lose and but win? Well, if he fights and Arjuna dies on the battlefield, he's going to get a new body and he's going to go to the heavenly planets to enjoy himself. So that's a benefit. Spiritual vision also leads to spiritual victory. So Krishna says, actually, if you were really my devotee Arjuna, you wouldn't make any profit and loss calculation. You wouldn't ask, if I do this, will I benefit? If I do that, will I suffer? A devotee does not make profit loss calculation. They do what they need to do to please the Supreme Lord. Then Krishna says, if you are truly my devotee, you will not make all these calculations. What will this happen or will that happen? We were talking on day one, right? We are not able to make decisions in certain situations because we don't know what's the right decision to make. And my advice was make a decision because we have to make a decision and move on. Things may go right, things may go wrong. If it goes wrong, Krishna has given you the intelligence to fix it. If things go right, great. Continue with your life. So Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, just do your duty to please me. Finally, what we need to understand from this is, if we need to know what our duty is, we first need to understand our identity. Our identity is that we are eternally the souls. We are souls, servants of Krishna. Therefore, our consciousness determines how we view the world. If your view of the world has to change and you have to really come to that platform of universal brotherhood, your consciousness must understand that everybody is suffering around you. Everybody is related to you because they are also a child of God. The dog is the child of a God. The tiger is a child of God. Oh, even the COVID virus is a child of God. We need to understand this. The minute we understand this, then Krishna says, you are elevating your consciousness. So we can create a better reality for ourselves simply by elevating our consciousness. So with that, we'll stop. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anantakoti vaishnava vrindiki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai.